Chefs pushing their limits to impress Gordon Ramsay is intense enough, but what happens when they cross the line? Let's dive into the jaw-dropping moments when Hell's Kitchen chefs got caught cheating. But what really stole the show was when the blue team got to serve the one and only Mike Tyson and his family.
Pace is not an excuse. You're in a restaurant. It's not an excuse. Sorry.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, can you even imagine Mike Tyson in Hell's Kitchen? That's like a dream come true for any contestant, right? But things took a turn for the worse real quick. The pressure was on, and the blue team was hyped to show what they've got. They wanted to impress their VIP guests with some killer dishes. But as with any good drama, disaster struck. Food wasn't coming out on time, and when it did, it was either raw, undercooked, or overdone. It was like watching a car crash in slow motion.
Do you think it's funny in front of your chef table?
You could see the steam coming out of Chef Ramsay's ears. This guy doesn't mess around, especially when it comes to his kitchen's reputation. The look on his face was priceless. He was more red than a cherry tomato. It was a comedy of errors, but not the funny kind. Mike Tyson, the man who came for a great meal and a memorable evening, got served a plate full of disappointment. And it just kept getting worse. As the dinner service dragged on, the mistakes just kept coming like a never-ending stream. It was pure pandemonium. And you could see the blue team crumbling under the weight of Chef Ramsay's expectations. Now, hold on to your hats because the plot thickens. Matthew Francis, in a desperate attempt to save his skin, pulls out a thermometer to check if the chicken was cooked right.
Pulls out a digital thermometer.
Can you even believe it? In a professional kitchen with all the pressure and drama, using a thermometer? That's like bringing a water gun to a firefight. And his teammates? They couldn't believe their eyes. They were probably thinking, dude, do you even know what you're doing? You think you can handle Chef Ramsay's kitchen with a little thermometer? Turns out Matthew wasn't even a professional chef. He was a food blogger for Pete's sake. It's like sending a kid to do a man's job. No wonder he resorted to using a thermometer. The heat of Hell's Kitchen was clearly too much for him. But seriously, how did Matthew even end up on the show? Wasn't there a vetting process? He should have been critiquing the dishes, not sweating it out behind the stove in Hell's Kitchen. That's like casting a fish out of water. Matthew's little thermometer incident was telling, and it wasn't a good look for him. It exposed his lack of experience and confidence, not to mention his questionable place in a competition for professional chefs. Cheating Chef Ramsay by trying to cut corners? That's just not how it's done, Matthew. So there you have it, a dinner service that was supposed to be extraordinary turned into a circus act. But hey, at least we got a good story out of it, right? Recalling a rather scandalous episode from season 14 of Hell's Kitchen involving Adam Laivow, it's clear that the pressure can sometimes lead to questionable decisions. Here's a breakdown of how things unfolded. Initially, Adam was off to a blazing start, impressing Chef Ramsay with his signature dish and securing a perfect score, which was quite the accolade. However, as the competition progressed, particularly during the Alaskan Fish Challenge, the blue team won a strategic 5-minute head start. Despite this enviable position, Adam found himself struggling to maintain pace, especially when it came to completing his basmati rice. In a moment of desperation, he ended up doing this.
I got that.
Yeah.
Tried to borrow his teammate Millie Medley's rice, thinking it would be a quick fix. This, however, turned out to be a disastrous move. When it was time for the dishes to be judged by Michael Kimarusti, Adam's halibut with bok choy and rice impressed the judge immensely. Millie, however, also served a halibut dish with a bell pepper rice, which raised some eyebrows. Judge Kimarusti's suspicions were piqued by the striking similarity in ingredients, particularly the rice, which was a critical component of both dishes. Adam's expression told it all.
You guys share on that one, or?
His face paled, a clear sign of guilt. Chef Ramsay, not one to miss a beat, stepped in and inquired directly if Adam had used Millie's rice.
Did you take some of Millie's rice? Sorry?
Caught in the act, Adam had no choice but to come clean. He admitted to using Millie's rice, effectively confessing that his dish wasn't entirely his own creation. This act of deceit did not sit well in the high-stakes environment of Hell's Kitchen. While Adam's dish was good enough to secure a win for his team, the manner in which he achieved it was far from commendable. Worse still, by cheating, he inadvertently handed the point over to the red team. The blue team, including Adam, faced the consequences of their actions by losing the challenge and having to handle the grueling task of seafood delivery and fish prep for the next service, a considerable setback that could have been avoided had he utilized the 5-minute head start more wisely. Well, this marked a critical moment in the episode, and serving as a stark reminder that integrity and fair play are crucial, even in high-pressure situations. May offer a temporary advantage, but the long-term repercussions can be far more damaging. Anyway, moving on, you know those contestants who seem to have a knack for getting themselves into trouble every single time? Well, Sabrina Gresset from season 6 of Hell's Kitchen is the poster child for that. This chick managed to mess up her dishes in every single episode she was in, and not only that, she didn't seem to learn from her mistakes. Talk about a culinary disaster. Sabrina's culinary mishaps were legendary, to say the least. The mushrooms were colder than ice, the pork and lamb were as raw as sushi. but she insisted they were cooked to perfection.
Raw pork, undercooked lamb, now you're blaming the customer.
Can you believe that? When a customer sent back a dish for being raw, she had the audacity to blame the customer. I mean, seriously, what planet is she from? Now, some viewers had a different take on the whole situation. They argued that while Chef Ramsay's standards are sky high, it's kind of unfair to blame the chef when the meat, that was initially checked by Chef Ramsay himself, comes back undercooked. They believed it was Chef Ramsay's responsibility to ensure the food met his standards before serving it. But hey, we don't agree with that. Chef Ramsay trusts his contestants, and let's not forget, he's human too. He's got a ton of work on his plate, no pun intended. It's not fair to lay the blame on him. Anyway, in this particular episode, both teams were declared joint losers, and Sabrina faced the music, or should we say the possibility of elimination. But as fate would have it, she dodged the bullet yet again. You'd think Sabrina would learn her lesson, right? Wrong. She found herself in another pickle during the next dinner challenge.
They got a fresh garnish with a dirty pan. So the garnish is left in there, the residual bits of crap.
She got caught cooking fresh garnishes in a dirty pan. Who does that? Sabrina, that's who. Here's the thing, Sabrina wasn't stupid, she was desperate. After a series of culinary failures, she was hell-bent on impressing Chef Ramsay. And how do you do that? By sending out your dish faster than a speeding bullet. However, taking shortcuts doesn't cut it in Hell's Kitchen, Sabrina. In her haste to present her dish, she used a dirty pan instead of taking the time to get a clean one. Not only is that gross, but it's also a violation of basic culinary ethics. Mixing flavors and ingredients in a dirty pan is a no-no in any kitchen, let alone one under Chef Ramsay's watchful eye.
Can't be bothered to bend down and get a clean pan.
No, Chef.
Pig!
Yes, Chef. I do what I always do, yes.
Chef Ramsay was so ticked off that he called her out for being lazy. Despite her antics, the red team somehow managed to win the service, and Sabrina escaped elimination once again. It's like she has 9 lives or something. Sabrina kept pushing Chef Ramsay's patience to the limit, and at this point, the customers and the viewers were tired of her shenanigans. It was clear that Sabrina was not the Chef Ramsay was looking for. So there you have it, folks. The saga of Sabrina Gresset, the contestant who just couldn't seem to get it right, and her desperate attempts to cheat her way to success in Hell's Kitchen. Up next, Elise Harris. The name alone can stir up a whirlwind of emotions and memories for fans of Hell's Kitchen. She's not just any contestant, she's the epitome of drama, with a knack for causing chaos that made her an unforgettable character, albeit not always for the right reasons. Elise's claim to fame began in Season 9, where she managed to advance to a surprising 3rd place. And many wondered if her return in Season 17 was a strategic move by the producers to boost ratings, given her notorious reputation for being a thorn in the side of her fellow contestants and a source of entertainment for viewers, a mix of annoyance and amusement. However, her second stint didn't end as gloriously. This time, she was placed 7th, a result that, considering her attitude, wasn't too far off what most might have predicted. Elise had a habit of stirring up trouble, and her antics were hard to ignore. During a particularly tense dinner service, Elise was paired with Elizabeth on the appetizer station. Right off the bat, she showed her true colors by interrupting Chef Ramsay, cutting him off before he could even finish reading a ticket. This wasn't just a faux pas, it was a cardinal sin in Chef Ramsay's kitchen where every second counts and respect is paramount. Chef Ramsay, predictably, was livid. He demanded Elise repeat the ticket, and her response was a spectacle of its own.
Come on, guys, get a grip, talk to each other.
Back in the red kitchen, Carrie is ready with her first appetizer.
The night only got worse for Elise. When it came time to serve the scallops, she was caught unprepared, her risotto nowhere near ready. When she finally served it, it was a disaster, runny and unappetizing, akin to a bowl of rice pudding.
It looked like a fucking risotto. It's like a rice pudding.
Chef Ramsay was seething, and Elise's future in the competition seemed bleak. Elise's overconfidence was her downfall. She claimed to be superior to her teammate Krupa, asserting she could outperform Krupa even with her eyes closed and a broken arm. Unfortunately for Elise, when Krupa aced a perfect risotto, she was left to eat her words in silence. In another instance of ill-advised meddling, Elise took it upon herself to interfere with Carrie's scallops, offering unsolicited and condescending advice. This led her to the fish station without consent, effectively stealing Carrie's station. Elise's justification was that she was trying to impress Chef Ramsay and be a team player, but Ramsay saw through her act.
You that I don't care about you.
Yes,
Do you
Chef.
understand?
As punishment, Chef Ramsay made Elise sit at the chef's table while Krupa got to enjoy the show. Elise's presence on Hell's Kitchen is a testament to the show's ability to captivate audiences with its mix of drama, competition, and culinary excellence. Despite her penchant for causing mayhem, Elise undoubtedly left a lasting impression on the show's legacy. Alrighty, now let's explore the culinary chaos brought to us by none other than Raj Branston from Season 8. If you're a true fan, you've got to know this guy. He was the king of causing a ruckus, from annoying his teammates to getting under the skin of Ramsay, and believe it or not, even sous chef Scott wasn't safe from his antics. Raj was a character, let me tell you. He took making mistakes to a whole new level, and his story is a must-mention in any conversation about the show's most memorable cheaters and troublemakers. Now, while the kitchen was in the midst of complete and utter pandemonium, Raj was busy doing something that left everyone speechless.
While Raj has snack time in the blue kitchen.
Can you believe it? Raj was snacking on rejected fish. While his teammates were frantically trying to salvage the dinner service, he was munching away like it was a midnight snack. Talk about an unquenchable appetite for disaster. Of course, Chef Ramsay couldn't miss such a spectacle, and when he caught Raj in the act, the fireworks started.
I see all this food, and it looks delicious, so I just, ate it.
Some viewers found humor in Raj's strategy to eat all the food that didn't pass Chef Ramsay's standards, arguing that at least it wasn't going to waste. And you have to admit, Raj was quick on his feet. He literally stuffed the last chunk of fish into his mouth just before Chef Ramsay could see and explode with anger. But that's not all Raj had up his sleeve. Remember the time he thought it was a brilliant idea to start cooking 3 Dover soles before the order was even called out? Yeah, that didn't go over well with Chef Ramsay. Raj's kitchen logic was a bit off. Why cook something that wasn't even ordered? What if a new order came in? What would he do then? Well, that's exactly what happened, and unfortunately for Raj, they ran out of Dover soles. This sent the entire blue kitchen into a downward spiral of chaos.
This sucks. Embarrassing. Fuck.
Chef Ramsay was so livid that he demanded Raj to do something.
2, and you go to the customers and tell them you fucked it up. I need another jacket.
But instead of owning up to his mistake, Raj decided to argue. Yeah, that went over well. If that wasn't enough, he even picked a fight with sous chef Scott.
Hey, get out there!
The good news for the blue team is that they didn't have to deal with Raj's antics for much longer. He was mercifully eliminated that very night. What a performance, or lack thereof, that was. It was absolute chaos and entertainment all rolled into one. And who bore the brunt of it all? You guessed it, the blue team. It's hilarious how some fans joke about Chef Ramsay being unable to get rid of Raj for several episodes because he was told not to do so. You can just imagine Chef Ramsay sitting in his office, counting down the days until he could finally bid Raj farewell. Until one day, Raj was suddenly gone. It must have been a relief for everyone involved, except maybe for us viewers who love the drama. Now, if you remember, Monique Booker's debut on season 14 of Hell's Kitchen certainly made headlines for all the wrong reasons. In a show where skills, creativity, and authenticity are paramount, her decision to use canned sauce in the very first challenge was a bold and controversial move, to say the least. Monique, the last contestant from the red team to present her dish, served what she called Moe's pasta. Little did she know, her choice of using a pre-made marinara sauce from a jar was about to turn the heat on her in more ways than one. When Chef Ramsay asked about her sauce, Monique didn't beat around the bush. She admitted to using a store-bought sauce, a confession that left Chef Ramsay in utter disbelief.
From a jar.
The shock and disappointment on his face were palpable as he questioned how she could call herself a chef if she wasn't willing to make her own sauce from scratch. Monique, however, was not one to back down. She defended her choice, stating that in the real world, not everyone has the luxury of time to make everything from scratch, suggesting that perhaps only authentic Italians might have the time for such culinary endeavors. Her confrontational stance against Chef Ramsay was bold, to say the least, and definitely not a recommended strategy for winning the chef's favor.
Wanted it, you should have just told me. I would have did it. You came
I've
to
got
the
to tell
kitchen.
you what I want.
Yes.
Despite her defiance, Chef Ramsay's reaction was surprisingly measured. Then, he acknowledged the presence of pre-made sauces in the pantry, possibly as a test to weed out the less committed chef.
Pasta, 1 out of 5.
Okay, got it.
Well done, men.
Surprise of many. However, this incident highlighted the show's strategy of including pre-made items in the pantry. The presence of canned sauces is indeed a double-edged sword, designed to catch chefs who might be tempted to take shortcuts, as was the case with Carrie. It's a clever setup by the Hell's Kitchen team, testing not just culinary skills, but integrity and resourcefulness as well. Monique's saga is a reminder of the importance of authenticity in the culinary arts and the potential consequences of cutting corners, especially under the watchful eye of Chef Ramsay. While she may have escaped immediate elimination, her actions certainly left a lasting impression, and not in a way that typically garners respect in the high-stakes world of competitive cooking. But what happened with Louis Petrozza during Hell's Kitchen's dinner service is a tale of audacity, skill, and a touch of creative rule-bending. In a high-pressure environment where every dish can make or break a chef's career, Petrozza's actions demonstrate the unique blend of desperation and ingenuity that can arise in the heat of the moment. Facing a dire situation when Loros Edralin's overcooked steaks threatened to unravel the dinner service, Petrozza didn't hesitate.
Fucked it up. You didn't cook it right and you're trying to get it by me. Do you have another one that I can see a nice pink center in?
Yeah, chef.
With the steaks essentially ruined, the kitchen was in disarray. But Petrozza, always the supportive team player, sprang into action. He scoured the kitchen for a solution, only to find himself empty-handed. In a moment of what can only be described as culinary bravery, Petrozza decided to take a risk. Instead of throwing in the towel, he boldly sliced off the burnt edges of the beef, a move that could have been disastrous.
We had to show the face of the beef.
Laros, skeptical of Petrozza's unconventional technique, was unsure if this desperate move would work. Little did he know, Petrozza was a master of turning lemons into lemonade. Despite the odds, Petrozza's strategy paid off. The steaks, now disguised as perfectly cooked, fooled sous chef Scott.
I'm gonna nominate myself, chef. I can't pick any of these guys.
As the night progressed, Petrozza's unwavering energy and determination became the backbone of his team. His actions, while not entirely by the book, showcased a level of creativity and resourcefulness that can sometimes be the difference between success and failure in a kitchen. Petrozza's story is a reminder that in the culinary world, sometimes you have to think outside the box, even if it means bending the rules a little. Yet, it's important to acknowledge that while Petrozza's actions were a testament to his skills and determination, they also highlight the pressures and sometimes the blurred lines of ethics in the competitive world of high-stakes cooking. The saga of Petrozza's steaks is a thrilling chapter in the annals of Hell's Kitchen. A story of a chef who, against all odds, managed to turn a kitchen disaster into a moment of culinary triumph, albeit with a touch of controversy. Next up is Jonathan Plumley. So it was the signature dish challenge of season 9 in Hell's Kitchen, where culinary rebels were born and legends were made. Or so they thought. This episode was a whirlwind of drama, rule-breaking, and one contestant's misguided attempt at culinary innovation. Jonathan Plumley, a contestant not known for his culinary finesse, but for his flair for the dramatic, took center stage in this memorable challenge. From the very beginning, it was clear that Jonathan had a different approach to cooking and rule-following than his peers. His rebellious streak was the source of both amusement and despair among viewers and fellow contestants alike. The challenge pitted Jonathan against Jennifer Normant, a contestant whose dish was a feast for the senses. Jennifer's meal was not only aesthetically pleasing, but also mouth-wateringly delicious, earning her praise and admiration from none other than Chef Ramsay himself. Meanwhile, Jonathan's creation, dubbed affectionately as Punch-Drunk Chicken, was a sight to behold, but not for the right reasons. Chef Ramsay's reaction was a mix of shock and disbelief as he surveyed the dish that was clearly a far cry from gourmet cuisine.
What the fuck is that on a plate?
Call this the punch-drunk chicken.
But the real shocker came when it was revealed that Jonathan had used canned pineapples in his dish. And this admission sent shockwaves through the kitchen.
Apple looks like canned?
Yes.
Using pre-prepared ingredients in a cooking competition, especially one where freshness and skill are celebrated, is akin to waving a red flag in front of a bull. Chef Ramsay was not impressed. Jonathan tried to justify his choice by blaming the time limit, but Ramsay saw right through his excuses.
The time today.
Limited time? 45 minutes?
The chef's response was brutal, likening Jonathan to someone so full of nonsense that his eyes turned brown. It was a scathing critique that left no room for misinterpretation. Chef Ramsay's refusal to taste Jonathan's dish was a clear indication of the disaster it was. Calling it an absolute disaster was a kind euphemism for the culinary atrocity that lay before him. Jennifer's victory was well-deserved, and Jonathan's canned pineapple fiasco became a cautionary tale for future contestants. Jonathan's rule-breaking, while entertaining to some, highlighted the importance of integrity and skill in the culinary arts. In Hell's Kitchen, as in any kitchen, there are no shortcuts to success. And Jonathan's misadventure with canned pineapples serves as a reminder that in the high-pressure world of competitive cooking, every ingredient and every decision counts. Now, let's talk about Brendan Heavy from Season 9 of Hell's Kitchen. This story is a testament to the adage that honesty is the best policy. Heavy's attempt to pull a fast one on Gordon Ramsay is as bold as it is foolish, considering Chef Ramsay is the master of the game and doesn't miss a beat. In the second episode, the tension in the Blue Kitchen during dinner service was palpable. Heavy was manning the fish station, and when Chef Ramsay called for the ticket, Heavy was tasked with preparing fresh sea bass. Little did he know, his actions would soon unravel like a poorly cooked meal. As orders pile up, Chef Ramsay grew suspicious that Heavy was serving the same old sea bass he'd cooked earlier instead of preparing new servings. It's one thing to try and save time, but attempting to serve leftovers to the discerning palate of Chef Ramsay and his guests is another.
So where's the old one then?
Threw it away, chef.
Chef Ramsay, the culinary detective, wasn't fooled. He confronted Heavy, asking if he'd actually made a fresh batch. And, unbelievably, Heavy stood his ground, lying straight to the face of the man who's seen it all. The chef wasn't about to let this slide. He demanded that Heavy show him the trash where he'd supposedly disposed of the old sea bass. But, as expected, Heavy couldn't produce the evidence.
Chef, I can't find it.
Are you lying to me? Because I'm going to stop this whole fucking kitchen.
The color drained from Heavy's face as he was caught in the act. It was a moment of pure drama, and Ramsay wasn't going to let him off easy.
Bass from 10 minutes ago, or is that a fresh one you cooked? Because I'm going to turn this fucking kitchen.
Feeling the heat and cornered, Heavy finally confessed to serving the old sea bass. It was a total facepalm moment, one that Heavy could have avoided if he'd just been honest from the start. Chef Ramsay's reaction to Heavy's confession was anything but forgiving.
Why?
Start a new bass. Start a new bass. Stop.
But the show must go on, and Chef Ramsay instructed the blue team to start over from scratch. As for Heavy, well, he had a surprise waiting for him, and it wasn't a pleasant one.
Time, trust me. Fuck the elimination. I'll send you out there and then. Let me tell you that.
Yes, chef.
This incident serves as a lesson to all future contestants and viewers. In Hell's Kitchen, there's no place for deceit. Chef Ramsay's kitchen is a place of honesty, where the best chefs rise to the top and those who try to cheat get burned. Anyway, today, I kind of find myself fixated on an episode of Culinary Chaos, where a few eager contestants thought they could outmaneuver sous chef Scott. It's almost comical, really. Recall the contestant from season 1, a fellow who believed he could dazzle Gordon Ramsay with his supposed culinary shortcuts. Alas, his plan didn't exactly pan out the way he envisioned. And let's face it, his cooking skills were nothing to brag about. They were just run-of-the-mill, nothing special. Following the blue team's defeat in the blind taste test, their punishment was a double dose of trouble. They were not only tasked with tackling the mountain of dirty dishes that seemed to loom over the kitchen, but also given the honor of accessing the storage room during peak service hours. Piece of cake? Not quite. Our dear Andrew Bonito, a fellow full of his own kind of genius, decided the traditional method of unlocking the storage room was too tedious. He had a better idea, cracking the code to save the team some precious time.
No, you're not, because Andrew just ruined it for you because he was taping the door.
He thought rules were for the birds. Cheating seemed like a better option, or so he thought. Now, who do you think caught him in the act? It wasn't the fiery Chef Ramsay this time, but the ever-watchful sous chef Scott. And as expected, someone wasn't thrilled about it. The shock and surprise were palpable, even for sous chef Scott, who's seen his fair share of shenanigans. Things escalated rather quickly. Sous chef Scott, who usually keeps his cool, lost his temper in a way never seen before. It was quite the scene. A spectacle indeed. Many viewers have since shared that sous chef Scott, when riled up, is arguably more intimidating than Ramsay at his angriest. I can't help but concur. It's the truth. Guess what happened next? Sous chef Scott, with a simple yet telling gesture, placed that tray of chicken right back where it had come from, the storage room. Andrew's brilliant plan was foiled, and the team was left to start over, all thanks to our dear Andrew's misadventure. It's always interesting when one person's misjudgment has a ripple effect on the whole group. And here's the icing on the cake. Andrew, in a twist of irony, ended up being one of the few who got additional punishment for botching up his original punishment. What luck indeed. And what a grand fail. In conclusion, Andrew's shortcut led to a disaster of epic proportions, and he faced the consequences for his actions. Contestants sometimes push the boundaries to get their way, but thankfully, Andrew's misstep didn't result in a tragedy, as was the case with Joanna Dunn's unfortunate choice of ingredients. It's one thing to be eager to impress, but it's quite another to serve tainted food. Joanna's attempt to create a dish with rancid crab, and her subsequent denial of its state, took the show's drama to a chilling new level. Imagine the shock of the diners if they had been served food that could potentially harm them, as Chef Ramsay so vividly pointed out.
Marianne.
Joanna's nonchalant walk past Chef Ramsay as if he were a mere bystander was audacious, to say the least. Her behavior in that moment left many viewers, myself included, questioning her judgment and professionalism. And Chef Ramsay's reaction was a necessary wake-up call for her.
Already?
No, chef, we have
Thank God for that. You killed someone!
The safety of the diners is paramount, and serving rotten food could not only sicken patrons, but also tarnish the restaurant's reputation. Hearing those harsh words in the heat of the moment must have been a humbling experience for Joanna. The punishment Chef Ramsay meted out was a fitting response to such a serious breach of trust.
Hey, get off! Get off! Julia, take it.
It serves as a stark reminder that in the culinary world, where health and safety are crucial, there is no room for error. Joanna's actions could have had dire consequences, including sending someone to the hospital, as Chef Ramsay so vividly pointed out. Moving on to a disastrous letdown in the All-Stars finale.
Big game about how she can cook some meat, and the next thing you know, she's sending up raw meat.
In the climactic final dinner service of season 17, Robin was selected as Benjamin's third choice. Expectations were high, as Robin aimed to replicate her earlier success with the lamb loin. Unfortunately, her attempt to cook the fillets ended in disappointment as they were sent up to Chef Ramsay rare, signaling trouble from the get-go.
Way under.
Yeah. Robin, I need this fillet a little bit longer. It's rare.
Yeah, chef.
However, the obstacles persisted as Robin struggled to achieve the desired doneness, leading to a tense exchange.
It looks scorched.
I'm good.
Her estimation of a 5-minute refire fell short when Chef Ramsay, moments before her intended presentation, inspected the fillets only to discover that they were still raw.
Touch the beef. Touch it. No, tell me. Go on.
It's under, chef.
You know it.
Now, Robin defended herself, swearing.
Touch him. It was a up, chef.
Chef Ramsay still wasn't sure.
Really?
Yes, chef. I don't want to him. I'm not here to sabotage him.
Right. You don't care.
She got frustrated and stopped answering questions, thinking everything she said was wrong.
Right.
Sorry, chef.
Eventually, after a third attempt, Chef Ramsay accepted her fillets, but the drama didn't end there. Chef Ramsay and sous chef Jockey noticed the lamb she cooked was not just cold, but also sporting an unappetizing shade of gray.
I haven't.
I have not given up, chef.
Get it in the pan. Get it hot.
There's a lane right now again.
After the fillet fiasco, she made another misstep by putting lamb chops in the same pan as the fillet.
The pan where the beef came out of.
Yes, because it was hot.
Oh my God.
That move got Chef Ramsay quite fired up, and he took her and Benjamin aside to give her a piece of his mind. The situation escalated, and Chef Ramsay was so upset that he kicked her out of the kitchen.
Out.
I don't want to get out. Please, chef.
Get out.
Are you kidding me? Are you guys kidding?
She pleaded with Benjamin to let her back in, determined to finish what she started. Benjamin, reluctantly, agreed to give her another shot and paired her up with Barbie to finish the service.
Didn't mean to you. Let me finish strong for you.
In the end, though, Benjamin lost out to Michelle. Unfortunately, Robin's repeated errors not only let Benjamin down, but also disrespected the trust he placed in her. I'd argue that her consistent mess-ups, culminating in a health code violation, were more than just slip-ups. They were breaches of trust and reliability. And if you thought that was it, then you haven't seen the worst yet. In the second service of Season 9, for Brendan, things were about to go downhill really quickly. Let me preface by saying people tell lies for all sorts of reasons. Some folks might not have a strong moral compass, so they don't think lying is unethical. Then there are those who lie when they're stressed or anxious, like when they're in a tough spot. But then you've got some people who lie just for the fun of it, even when everything's going their way and they're feeling on top of the world. They get a thrill out of pulling the wool over someone's eyes. So, in which category will you put this charmer here?
Because I'm going to turn this fucking kitchen upside down.
Here's what went down. Brendan ran into a few issues. But guess what it did? It exposed his conniving ways.
No, chef.
You've got to work as a team, please.
He fired a sea bass for a table when nobody else was ready to send it out. Obviously, Chef Ramsay wasn't too happy about that, so he gave him an earful, telling him to communicate better and drop another sea bass. Now, here's where things get interesting. When Brendan sent out his second attempt at the sea bass, Chef Ramsay got suspicious. He presumed Brendan might have sent out the sea bass that had been cooked 10 minutes before. And so, he asked Brendan if he did, and what did this fucker do?
You didn't start a fresh one.
Yes, I did, chef.
So where's the old one then?
Threw it away, chef.
Show me.
Yep, he had the audacity to deny it, saying he started a fresh one. But if we know anything about Chef Ramsay, it's that he cannot be fooled. Obviously, he wasn't convinced and asked to see the older one. And what did Brendan do? He went to the garbage bin to look for the old sea bass. I mean, the theatrics definitely made for sweet, sweet television, not gonna lie.
Chef, I can't find it.
But wait until you see what he came back with. Well, nothing. Just empty hands and a guilty conscience. His sly move would easily make it to the top 5 greatest fuck-ups of HK. Anyway, Chef Ramsay didn't take too kindly to that and asked Brendan if he was lying. What's more, he even threatened to shut down the kitchen too. That was so eerie. Even hardened criminals would give up, so Brendan stood no chance. He knew the jig was up. He must have felt the heat because he eventually confessed that the sea bass was indeed old.
Why?
Start a new bass.
Sorry.
Start a new bass. Stop. Everybody stop.
Yeah, he only did that because, for one, he had no other way out, he was caught red-handed, and most importantly, he was trying to save face.
And turn me out like that.
Yes, chef. Fire me again.
In all honesty, Brendan was probably shitting his pants when he realized that Chef Ramsay wasn't buying into his elaborate schemes.
I'll send you out there and then. Let me tell you that.
Yes, chef.
Later, when he finally had another go at the sea bass, unfortunately for him, it turned out to be raw. Chef Ramsay had had enough and kicked the men out of the kitchen. It was a tough night for Brendan, that's for sure, and his blatant attempt at lying didn't do him any favors in Chef Ramsay's eyes. That raw food was the end of Chef Ramsay's patience, and he cleared the entire blue team out of the kitchen.
Slap in the face, literally taking your dick out and whipping it across my chin.
Fuck!
Perfect summation. That's how I feel when I work hard on a video and it gets only like 100 views. Anyway, remember how he couldn't stop bragging about his background? everyone was clearly annoyed.
Always had the label potential on me. Time I ever made a meal and served it to my family, they loved it. Loved it.
So, what was your esteemed family's reaction when they saw you getting busted trying to lie on national TV, huh?
My parents were like, oh my God, look what he can do. It was like my eyes lit up.
Wow.
Gloater, grifter, that's what he was. Moving on to this genius from season 1 who thought he could impress Chef Ramsay by taking shortcuts. If everything I talked about earlier is any indication, you know how well that went for him. So what happened is, after the blue team lost the blind taste test, they were hit with a punishment that was a real double whammy. Not only did they have to tackle a mountain of dirty dishes, but they also had the honor of unlocking the storage room during the busy service. Sounds like a piece of cake, right? But our pal, Andrew Benito, being the genius he was, decided he couldn't be bothered with all that nonsense. He thought he could crack the code and save everyone some precious minutes. So, what was his brilliant idea?
Just fucking do it. Just give me the mask.
Who needs to follow the rules when you can just cheat your way through it? And who caught him red-handed this time? Not Chef Ramsay, but sous chef Scott. And let me tell you, he was livid.
Get that fucking tape off of there and get the fuck back in there. You think I'm fucking stupid?
Even sous chef Scott, who has definitely seen some crazy stuff, couldn't believe the audacity of our hero here. Needless to say, things got seriously heated. Sous chef Scott really lost his cool, and you can't say it wasn't a sight to behold.
Why don't you try being as serious as these people are on your team instead of being a jerk?
Chef, I'm gonna bring those down right now.
Fans have argued that Chef Scott is secretly scarier than Chef Ramsay when he's angry. And honestly, I don't disagree. I've got plenty of thoughts about the guy. I made a video about him recently that proves that much and more. Give it a watch if you haven't already. Anyway, what do you think happened next?
Andrew just ruined it for you because he was taping the door. When you need him, you gotta come in here and get one.
Well, sous chef Scott took that tray of chicken and promptly returned it to where it belonged, the storage room. Meanwhile, the entire team had to start from scratch, all thanks to our man Andrew. Teamwork makes the dream work, but when teamwork's not working, it's a hell of a nightmare. But guess what? Andrew's day was far from over. He ended up being one of the lucky few who got punished for messing up the punishment. As if one punishment wasn't enough. Well, if only he had played by the rules, we wouldn't be talking about him right now. But in spite of it all, some contestants really pushed the competition's limits to have their way. Just like this next contestant, who was trying to cover up her mistake, was caught by Chef Ramsay. You see, if you're up to no good, one of two things is gonna happen. The cameras are gonna see it, or Chef Ramsay's gonna see it. Take a guess which of the two caught onto it when Andrea Heinle was in charge of the meat station in the 5th service of season 5.
8 minutes? Yes, it's gonna get done, okay?
While Andrea hides her Wellingtons, it's now time for Jay.
So what did she do? Andrea decided to pull a dirty move and sneakily hid some of those burnt Wellingtons under the counter. And when Chef Ramsay questioned her about it, this is what she had to say.
There you go. Dear fucking pile of shit.
Did she really try to act like she was refiring them? I am always amazed at the lengths some of these chefs will go to cover their tracks. But come on, Chef Ramsay was gonna uncover her hidden stash of ruined meat at some point. And you can bet your bottom dollar things were about to get seriously heated. Her comeback was just, I don't know how it burned. Like, seriously? Come on, I'll walk you through it. Too much heat for too long makes burnt food. That's just like science or something. As for Chef Ramsay's next move, he rounded up the entire red team to witness the magnificent sight. And just to spice things up, this is what he did next.
That's it, is it? What are you doing?
Trying to get it together, Chef.
Andrea was seriously lucky she didn't get eliminated right on the spot. I mean, Chef Ramsay's made better chefs hit the road for less. Anyway, when she tried to bounce back, she claimed her Wellingtons needed an extra 4 minutes. But Chef Ramsay, sharp as ever, reminded her that she had already said the same thing earlier. Oh, Andrea, your timing skills were just impeccable. And let's not even talk about your communication with Carol Scott on the fish station.
How long?
Chef, I'm about 2 minutes out. Are you 2 minutes out? You
That was next level insane.
Big time.
Yes, Chef.
And I'm getting really pissed off because nothing's happening. Now can you work as a team?
Yes, Chef.
You see, Chef Ramsay was counting on those Wellingtons to be ready on time, but with the timing changing every time he asked, and not in the way you'd expect given, well, time, he just lost it.
It's more than 2 hours into dinner service, and with both kitchens at a near standstill.
And if Andrea giving Chef Ramsay a hard time wasn't crazy enough, Colleen Cleek decided to join in on the madness when her dessert came back raw.
Has totally collapsed.
Christ almighty. 2.5 hours of bullshit.
Colleen, well, C was a grifter who was, like Chef Ramsay said, cheating off her students by charging what? $300 when she couldn't differentiate salt from sugar. Poor Chef Ramsay was totally done for the day. I mean, just look at him.
When I say I've had enough, I've had enough.
After all the chaos, it was crystal clear that both the teams deserved to be joint losers. Yet, the red team managed to snag the consolation prize of being the best of the worst. In the midst of the deliberations, Andrea finally owned up to her terrible performance. I'd have used stronger language, but it was a good start at least. She gracefully told LA, the brains behind the nominations, that she wouldn't hold it against her if she chose Andrea. Noble move, Andrea, very noble indeed. And when the moment of truth arrived, surprise surprise, Andrea became LA's pick for elimination alongside Jay Maxwell from the blue team. But Andrea had one last trick up her sleeve. She wanted to return to the meat station and prove she could handle it. And believe it or not, Andrea survived the elimination. Because, you know, one stormy night doesn't matter when you firmly believe you're destined to win it all. Confidence, I tell you, is a powerful thing. If Chef Ramsay's kitchen was hell, this chef would be the first one to be put in the 8th circle of the Inferno.
That's way up the table!
And Tiffany's behavior was seriously annoying. I mean, she had this nasty habit of getting wasted, spreading gossip and making things worse, creating all this unnecessary drama and tension within the team.
Food, shut up! I want to hear it! She can't cook chicken. Cooking a breast of chicken is about as easy as baking it.
What a troublemaker, I tell ya. What really got under my skin was her double standards, which are easily in the top 3 of her worst qualities. She'd go around saying she didn't like kids and thought they wouldn't appreciate good food. Like, that gave her an excuse to serve them burnt pizza.
Put the knife on the bottom of your lip.
Yes, chef.
And then put the knife back in.
Yes, chef.
She'd turn around and relentlessly make fun of the blue team for messing up during service, as if she was way above everyone else.
Here's how you treated me, okay? You're here, I'm here. Don't do that.
Also funny how she kept preaching about how they shouldn't care about their pride and only focus on the customers.
It's not about you in this competition. It's about the fucking customer and the food. Do you realize that?
Well, guess what, Tiffany? Those kids you dissed, they're customers too, and they deserve a decent dining experience, just like anyone else. Oh, and let's not forget her weird potato creation. I mean, the people who tried that mess were customers too, and honestly, it looked like a potential health hazard. Tiffany's double standards and her knack for causing drama really rubbed me the wrong way. She really played dirty by intentionally sending out an incomplete order of scallops just to make Barbie look bad and shift the blame. It was all about her personal grudge, not giving a damn about the team's performance.
Here you go, Barbie, because that's where you belong.
And let me tell you, Miss Machiavelli wasn't exactly the picture of honesty either. She even suggested we cook extra sea basses as a kind of insurance policy. I mean, what even?
Why don't we fire like 4 more fucking bass right now too, okay? Pick it up and get this food out, okay, guys?
But here's the kicker. We actually cooked Dory to order. What was she thinking?
To be cooked to order. It's fish.
I don't understand why I'm getting yelled at, customer. I mean, I'm pissed off that he's mad at me.
When Chef Ramsay confronted her, she didn't own up to her mistakes. Instead, she threw her teammates under the bus and the entire team got yelled at as a result.
Get out! Hey, you. Take that with you. Get out of my fucking sight. Get out!
To make matters worse, she acted like she had nothing to do with it in the first place.
Shit! Fucking idiot! What is wrong with you? Bitch, stop!
Her behavior during that service just screamed, I'm in it for myself, rather than being a team player. You remember that incident from episode 5, right? So, Roy started griping about Mexican cuisine, throwing around these cliched comments about flour tortillas, and even boasting that he could whip up better tacos than Kimmy, who hails from Memphis.
From Memphis is not gonna make a better fucking flavored taco than, especially when you're going into a taco challenge that's supposed to be somewhat traditional, you don't use flour tortillas.
But then there's Tiffany, who had previously been all about this no whining policy, but she couldn't resist the urge to stir the pot. She took a big swig of wine, got herself pretty hammered, and spilled the beans to Kimmy and Robin.
The whole like, oh, she's from the South, so why is she using flour tortillas type of shit.
I got the fucking point though, right?
Exactly.
I think she would have thrived in a career where they make money writing tabloid scoop. I mean, seriously, whenever she popped up on the screen, I just wanted to hit that mute button. Instead of handling the issue constructively, she used Royce's complaints as a way to pin the blame on Danielle, Dana, and Christina.
I said Dana and Christina and Danielle said something like...
Can you believe it? She started spreading the word that it wasn't Royce who made those remarks, but those 3. Naturally, it created a rift, whose effects were disastrous in the Mexican service.
I don't understand where all those girls' heads are at. I didn't see Christina pull a point.
But this incident revealed more about Tiffany because what are rumors anyway but an ego massage tool for the weak? And she never cleared up the air. However, I totally loved it when sous chef Andy called her out.
No, you're not! Okay, I'm not.
And with that, Karen became the only contestant to this date to be kicked out of the kitchen by a sous chef.
Attitude, why don't you take a walk and date it? Have fun.
Quite the illustrious record, no? But what this next contestant did had to have been the most absurd way of cheating, bar none. I'm talking about Jeremy Madden. I mean, seriously, the guy was a total mess. Not only could he not cook, but he also managed to single-handedly ruin the blue team's entire day in the most efficient and spectacular way possible. And then there was Ray Alongi, who blamed the poor pans for dropping the eggs. But let me tell you, Jeremy takes the cake for being even worse.
Jeremy, hey, he's not even answering me.
Remember that time when he couldn't even hear the orders and drove Chef Ramsay up the wall? And when he was confronted about it, he just admitted he didn't hear a thing.
I wasn't able to hear it, Chef.
And let's not forget the audacity he had to stand up to Chef Ramsay, even though he couldn't even make croissants to save his life. Just look at him standing there doing jack. All I can say is, Chef Ramsay was just as bewildered as I was, if not more.
Jeremy's standing in the middle there like that with his breakfast.
Oh, but wait, the Jeremy saga continues. After what felt like an eternity, he finally showed up with the croissant. But where's the smoked salmon? If it's not one thing, it's gonna be another as far as Jeremy is concerned. After idly standing around, Jeremy suddenly felt an urgent need to rush things. So he asked Dan Ryan for a plate to walk with, even though he wasn't done yet. I guess rules don't really apply to him, do they?
Can I walk this plate? No.
Hurry up!
And you won't believe this part. When all the plates were ready to go to the pass, Chef Ramsay noticed something off about one of them. Lo and behold, it was Jeremy's plate that caught his attention. And this wasn't just any old plate, or, well, it was in this case because it had been plated an hour ago. Love how the camera panned to him the moment Chef Ramsay said, "disgusting pig." And like, did he even realize the gravity of the mistake he just made? The dude deserved every ounce of Chef Ramsay's fury for sure.
And you want to serve that?
In Dan's defense, he did say no to Jeremy quite loudly when the latter was rushing with the sample plate. This reminds me of another screw-up. Do you remember the season 14 Alaskan Fish Challenge? Adam and Millie had paired up for it and things soon became rough. When they first got their hands on the fish from the icy waters, Adam admitted he had a little chilly shock, but they managed to handle their pieces just fine, which was...
Halibut! You got it! You got it!
Yep, halibut. The judges, Chef Ramsay and Michael Cimarusti, were in the hot seat and Adam stepped up to present his masterpiece, a pan-seared halibut accompanied by some grilled baby bok choy and basmati rice.
Let's just tie this thing. Please, let's just tie this thing.
Alright, let's start with the good. The judges were pretty pleased with the flavor of Adam's fish. A win in the taste department, it seemed. But soon enough, Adam found himself in some scalding water. Millie dished up his halibut with cheese alongside some bell pepper rice, and the judges' spidey senses tingled. They suspected Adam and Millie of sharing ingredients.
So bell pepper rice? How did you guys both wind up with rice on the dish?
But did they? Chef Ramsay pressed on them too.
Did you take some of Millie's rice? I'm gonna cut the bullshit. Did you take Millie's rice?
Looks like they were on thin ice, chillier than the icy waters of the challenge.
Yes, sir.
What the hell are you doing?
Oops, it looks like he broke a rule. Turns out, as they got down to cooking, Adam hit a snag. His risotto was lagging behind schedule, and panic mode was setting in. Millie, being the good teammate that he is, swooped in with a generous offering. He willingly shared some of his own rice to save the day. But you have to give it to Adam. At least he didn't try to play it cool. He owned up to the whole ordeal. However, Chef Ramsay wasn't having any of it. You just cannot borrow a part of the dish from your fellow contestant and call it your own.
This was your dish. Absolutely, sir. So, no shared ingredients. You got it, chef. Not good.
Chef Ramsay was so pissed that he gave Adam the dreaded disqualification. As a result, the pair took a hit in the challenge, and the blue team ended up scoring a less than ideal 1-3. You see, no matter who, what, and where cheating's a no-go, but there was this one user who had a wild take. My friend Carlos thinks that Adam shouldn't have fessed up to cheating. Instead, he should have stuck to his guns and told a big old fib. His idea was, what if two contestants accidentally used rice in their dishes? It could just be a fluke. Basically, he believed Adam could have skated right through the mess, without getting disqualified. Now, personally, I don't agree with that. I actually think it was pretty darn admirable of Adam to own up to his mistake, instead of spinning a tall tale. Sure, he could have lied his way out of it, but that'd be unfair. The courage it took to come clean was the standout moment here. It showed us that he's a genuine person, even with the slip-up. By now, all contestants should know that lying to Chef Ramsay's face is the wackiest thing you could do.
That's why I called you fuckface. Not a problem. Because you're fucking them and you're fucking me.
I think you already know who I am talking about. During the HK3K service challenge, Zach was in charge of the fish station. When Chef Ramsay discovered a tray of already cooked salmon, Zach tried to pass them off as just seared. He brought the tray over to Chef Ramsay, and boy, the famous chef wasn't pleased. He reminded Zach that salmon can't be cooked twice, and that Hell's Kitchen ain't no fast food joint. Here. So Chef Ramsay shut that down and ordered Zach to start over. Near the end, Barrett sent his wraps to the pass, and Zach still wasn't ready with his salmon. He said they were coming, but when they finally got to the pass with Dan's help, this is what happened. But Zach pulled a crazy move.
Jeff told me that I can't use that I had just cooked off.
Yep, he tried to sneak into the back, pick up an old piece of salmon, and toss it in the pan to finish it off. Chef Ramsay was furious and asked if he used it, to which Zach swore he didn't. Chef Ramsay didn't buy it, naturally, and asked again, but Zach stuck to his story.
Did you take salmon from the back and reheat it? I tried. Yes or no? No.
Wow, this man was committed to the bit. But don't say we didn't warn you, Zach.
Chef Ramsay's not stupid. He knows what's going on.
Amen. He swiftly pushed him off the salmon and replaced him with Jeremy. However, this wasn't the only time Zach was trying to deceive Chef Ramsay. After their 12th dinner service, he really tried to pull a fast one on the ladder during that elimination play. So, because the blue team had a tie between Michael and he, Chef Ramsay called them both up front. Ramsay asked Zach if he thought he was better than Michael. And what did Zaz say? He confidently said he was, and even claimed he could kick it up a notch when there were only 3 guys left because 3 dishes on the menu were his own creations. But then Anthony chimed in, saying they all contributed to the menu ideas. Uh-oh, really cringed hard seeing him try to cover up his ass.
My team, but the basis of the dish was all me.
Oh boy, there was no getting out of this one. He kept digging himself a bigger grave with every word. Man, did he have a meteoric decline. And well, Chef Ramsay made sure to call him out on that brutally.
Is that BS?
Yeah, that's bullshit.
See, you cannot bluff your way out of Ramsay's game. Sebastian was the Joan of Arc in giving him that little nickname. And I think Chef Ramsay is finally in agreement. And hey, it's now a well-known legend that saying those 2 words in front of the mirror at midnight will summon an angry Gordon Ramsay. You can type it down in the comments at your own risk. Moving on, this contestant from season 4 who thought keeping an entire list of orders on hold would somehow help her teammates get their act together. Now, I have no idea what she was expecting, but what it resulted in was a whole bunch of diners who were left waiting for hours on end. What happened is, Roseanne Fama was put on duty as an assistant maitre d' in the 2nd episode. Just as the service kicked off, Roseanne was taking her sweet time with the first set of orders. It looked like forever before the orders made it to Chef Ramsay's hands in the kitchen. Seeing this, JP was worried that Chef Ramsay would blow his top even before the chefs had turned on their burners.
Oh my god. Thank you.
And what do you know, Roseanne took a whole 37 minutes until she finally rolled in with her first ticket.
Move your ass.
Yes, sir, chef.
Let's go.
Chef Ramsay couldn't understand the reason behind her laid-back attitude. He made sure to give her a quick lesson on urgency and commanded her to hustle. Well, any other contestant would have taken his words seriously. I mean, it's not every day that Chef Ramsay lets you go with just a warning. However, 2 hours into the madness, Roseanne kicked herself into overdrive. She finally decided to hand Chef Ramsay a ticket she'd scribbled down more than an hour ago. Well, not hand in, she threw it in. Slyly.
It came on nearly an hour ago. Oh no.
And what was her excuse? Well, take a look at this.
I want to bombard you all at once and give them to you.
What?
That was her justification. Roseanne had held onto a bunch of tickets only because she didn't want to overwhelm Chef Ramsay. Oh, how considerate of her. Well, Chef Ramsay's reaction should be enough to tell you what he thought about that little idea.
For 2 hours, chef, to be perfect.
What? The man was confused as hell. I mean, what the hell was she even talking about? It's crazy to think that you've already placed your order and it hasn't even made its way to the kitchen yet after 2 hours had crawled by. Quite expectedly, the red team crashed and burned that service. Not surprising why Roseanne was at her wit's end during the deliberations. She was pretty sure her days were numbered, but despite that, she tried to maintain a positive attitude. Still, she was 100% responsible for the sluggish pace the red team ran at that night, and which is why it was pretty shocking when she managed to dodge the bullet that was eliminated that night. Girl got lucky, let me tell ya. This next contestant who totally brushed off Chef Ramsay's direction and decided to do her own thing. But when Chef Ramsay caught wind of it, things went from 0 to hysterical real quick. You know how challenges involving eggs are always exciting, right? Well, anyway, Season 7's Egg Relay Challenge was no different. The goal was to cook up 4 egg dishes,
Poached, soft boiled, sunny side up, and scrambled.
Sounds like a walk in the park, right? But here's the twist. It was all about testing if the chefs could handle the heat and cook something as basic as eggs without stumbling. Now, the red team was 1 member short, and since it was a paired challenge.
Yes, chef.
You're on your own today.
Yes, chef.
How tough could that be? Turns out, it's way more difficult than you could imagine. The teams had a measly 5 minutes to cook the eggs to perfection. But, oh boy, Siobhan started freaking out because she was flying solo. And then, she made the mother of all mistakes when she decided to team up with Autumn Lewis and Frank Clear without Chef Ramsay's permission. Now, whether it was under pressure or not, Siobhan had just thrown Chef Ramsay's instructions right out the window.
We have 5 minutes to make these eggs. I thought immediately, you know what? Siobhan's got all this to do herself.
And Autumn ended up getting her hands on the sunny side up, which is helpful, but you are in hell. When it was time for the judgment, Chef Ramsay threw her a curveball and asked how long she boiled the soft egg for. And what was her answer? You won't believe what she said.
Boil it for.
I just cook them every day, chef, so I kind of grasp for how long they're cooked for.
And Chef Ramsay's face says it all. He was like, "Are you serious?" But wait, it gets even worse.
My teammates helped me, chef.
Your teammates helped you?
Yes, chef.
Siobhan's explanation pushed all of Chef Ramsay's buttons. Like, what pressure is she even talking about? Truth is, Chef Ramsay would have actually given her a dish a pass. Well, obviously he knew she was working all by herself.
Yes, chef.
I asked you to work on your own.
Yes,
Because you put you out, singled you out, thinking you cook fucking eggs 4 ways.
I could and I wanted to.
But Siobhan left him stunned when she started blaming her teammates for her action.
Didn't you?
Because there was pressure from my team. Are you serious? From not from my team, from Autumn.
Okay, I don't remember anyone forcing her to do anything. Autumn just threw out an idea and Siobhan went with it. So it's totally on her.
So you only poached 1 egg in 5 minutes?
I did 2 poached eggs.
Yikes! Anyway, when she realized things were crashing down around her, she decided to break down. Like, come on, like as if crying was gonna make anything better.
How can I make it any more fucking clearer than that?
I should have pushed her out of the way, and I'm so mad at myself.
Well, this challenge wasn't all that exciting after all, right? But in this next episode, you'll witness how contestants tried to cheat and sabotage each other at the same time. Let's dive into the chaos of episode 3, season 12. Mike Arista was working at the fish station with Chris. But hold on, because this is when things got wild. Mike straight up told Chris to drop the scallops when it wasn't time yet. And well, Chris was obviously pretty confused.
Now you confuse me.
Was this part of Mike's devious plan to throw Chris under the bus for making a mistake? Well, it sure looked like it. And Chris, still confused as all hell, called out Mike for acting like a complete idiot. And this is when the real fun began. When Chef Ramsay called out for the next dish, Mike brought this uncrusted halibut to the pass, something Chris had totally forgotten about.
One halibut.
Although Chris tried to stop him, Mike was determined to have his way. And, well, his plan to sabotage Chris finally worked its magic. But Mike wasn't done yet. He walked up with another halibut, and this time he had his eyes on DeMarco. You see, DeMarco had forgotten to leave the bone in his chicken, which meant it needed a refire.
Got to fucking leave the bone on.
Chef Ramsay couldn't understand why the team's cooperation was going so poorly. Despite the warning, Scott ran out of patience and walked his lamb to the pass, not wanting to wait for the halibut.
I don't get it. I do not understand the stupidity in it.
And that was the end of it. That one mistake got the entire blue team kicked out of the kitchen, and it was like everyone was trying to cheat to get ahead and send their dish out to the pass before anyone else had a chance to. There was no communication, no teamwork, or whatsoever. Just full-blown aggro and sabotage. This next contestant made a grave mistake that could have potentially affected his personal life. In season 16, episode 7, things took a romantic turn in the dorms. Andrew, Pierce, and Heather decided to get cozy and cuddle up together. But here's the kicker, Andrew made it crystal clear that he and Heather were just friends. However, even with his wedding a short few months away, Andrew didn't mind keeping the flirtatious vibe going.
In a couple months, so it's probably not going to be a strong relationship.
Talk about a showmance. But let's address the elephant in the room. Dude was blatantly cheating on his fiancée right in front of the cameras. This little tryst was a completely different kind of cheating. Heather later clarified that she had no idea Andrew was engaged.
On the show. I had no idea. And I put that on my life, my kids' life. Like, I had no idea at all.
You didn't know on the plane. You didn't know when you first met him. You didn't know.
Knew nothing.
There's more to it. Heidi knew about the thing, and even though Heather and her were friends, Heidi didn't bother warning Heather. Plus, listen to this.
Tells me about his fiance right before the families come out. So I'm more concerned about my child being there. That's all I care about. And like that episode gets me every time.
She also revealed that she was pretty mad that the show edited it in a way that made her seem like she was intentionally cheating.
What gets me is they don't show me finding out about Andrew's fiance and me freaking out. They show me looking at Heidi going, awkward.
I mean, this is Hell's Kitchen, not Temptation Island. The production and editing team screwed her up bad. And then, of course, we have the finisher.
Lift the bottom of the Wellington over.
And that, my friend, is Brad. In my opinion, he deserved a spot in the Black Jackets. He showed mad skills even though he had a bit of a stumble in his last 2 services, especially the risotto gate. Still, I believe he had the potential to bounce back from those setbacks and prove himself in the later stages of the competition. What do you think? Anyway, back to the 3rd service. When asked for a time on those Wellingtons, he responded saying,
Hold on, there's someone being dishonest.
But what did he do? He took a Wellington he just cooked, and instead of tossing it, he tried to scrape off the burnt bits. Sneaky move, right? But Chef Ramsay had eagle eyes and spotted him in the act.
Oh, come on.
It was a close call that Wellington might have hit the plate if Chef Ramsay hadn't caught him red-handed and threatened to kick his ass sideways. You see, it's not like anyone wants to actually lie to Chef Ramsay. But they get so caught up in themselves that they end up lying just to save their asses over something negligible. If you ask me, it's always better to say it to Ramsay like it is. Cause when you try to fabricate it with lies, Chef Ramsay is right there like a hawk, ready to chew your brains out. So, can you think of more times when contestants played dirty tricks on the show? Don't forget to let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to drop a like, subscribe, and turn on the post notifications. And if you want to watch another mind-bending video, then make sure to check out this next post right here. It's even crazier!